Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take you through the essential knowledge, the core ideas from some of the most intricate stories and complex works out there.
And today, we are diving headfirst into a really monumental novel, Isabel Allende's The House of the Spirits.
Yeah, this is one of those books that feels like it needs its own family tree just to keep track. We're talking four generations, the Truba family, the Del Valles.
And it's all mixed up with this incredible blend of, intense political history, sweeping personal sagas, and that signature magical realism. It's just epic.
Absolutely. It's this huge story about fate, free will, memory, mostly seen through the eyes of some really extraordinary women.
Right, so if you've ever picked this up and felt maybe a bit lost in the web of cousins and ghosts and curses and revolutions.
Which is easy to do.
Totally. Well, then you're in exactly the right place for this deep dive.
Okay, so here's our mission for you today. We're going beyond just like a simple plot summary. We want to really unpack the whole narrative.
We'll get into the key characters, their lives, their legacies. But more than that, we're going to spotlight the single most significant event from each major part of the book.
And the goal there is to really connect those threads. You know, the magic, the political violence, that sense of destiny.
And show how things echo down the generations. How the actions, even the crimes, of the first generation end up, sometimes quite literally, paying for the survival of the last.
So let's start where the novel starts. In the world of the Del Valle family. It's chaotic, definitely eccentric, and already buzzing with politics and, well, magic.
Right. The foundation here is Severo and Nivea Del Valle.
And Severo, he immediately establishes the political side of things. He's a liberal, outspoken.
Yeah, he's really defined by his political battles. He's pushing for some pretty radical stuff for the time, like trying to legalize bastards, get civil marriage recognized.
Which naturally put him right up against the church.
Oh, absolutely. Directly.
Yeah.
You've got Father Restrepo basically denouncing him from the pulpit, calling him a Pharisee, trying to tear down, family, country, property, the church, everything.
So that tension between personal lives and public politics is there from page one. It's aggressive.
Exactly. And then you have Nivea, his wife. She's just as radical, but maybe in a different way.
15 pregnancies, 11 surviving children. But she is anything but a quiet homemaker.
Not at all. She's this fierce suffragette and early feminist. I mean, the image of her chaining herself to the gates of Congress. That's powerful.
It really is. She provides this model of female strength right at the beginning.
And crucially, she doesn't just fight in the streets. When her daughter, Clara, starts showing these spiritual abilities, Nivea doesn't shut it down.
No, she embraces it. She becomes a patron of Clara's spiritualist sessions.
Right, which kind of legitimizes the magic within the family itself. It's okay here. It's accepted.
And their whole household feels defined by chaos and the supernatural from the get-go, starting with Barabbas.
Ugh. Oh, Barabbas. The dog. His arrival is really the first major event, the first big sign that the ordinary rules don't quite apply here.
He shows up on Holy Thursday of all days, this huge black dog in a cage.
Delivered by sea, according to Clara's notebooks, which just adds to the mystery. And young Clara, she's only 10. She immediately claims him. Says she'll die if they take him away.
Talk about willpower.
Right. And he's not just a pet. He becomes this enormous, almost mythical creature sleeping beside her, needing a quilt because he gets cold. He's like the guardian of this magical space.
And Clara herself.
Yeah.
Her unique nature is established very early on, that famous incident at Mass.
Oh, yeah. That's such a key moment. It's when the outside world really labels her as different. Father Restrepo is going on about hellfire and damnation.
And Clara, who's usually quiet, but comes out with these pronouncements.
She just pipes up, Father Restrepo, if that story about hell is a lie, we're all fucked, aren't we?
Oh, amazing. Just cuts right through it.
Completely. And, of course, the priest freaks out, declares she's possessed by the devil. But for the family, it forces them to confront her otherworldliness. It sets her apart.
Okay, now we have to talk about Rosa the Beautiful, eldest daughter. She's almost less a character and more an idea.
Exactly. An ideal. She represents this peak of perfection, this future that Esteban Truba is dreaming of, but a future that's ultimately unattainable.
The descriptions are just unreal. Her beauty is mythical, the green hair like a fantastic hat looking like a mermaid.
It's deliberately over the top. Allende writes she's on that tenuous line between a human being and a creature of myth. She's so perfect, men are actually kind of scared of her. She embodies this fragile, impossible beauty that Esteban wants to possess.
And while he's off mining, trying to earn the fortune to marry her, what's Rosa doing?
She's embroidering. But not just anything. The largest tablecloth in the world, filled with these fantastical creatures. It mirrors her own impossible scale and maybe hints at the tragedy.
Which brings us to the event that shatters everything for the Del Valles and really kicks off Esteban's story. Rosa's death.
It's brutal and accidental. The poison was meant for Severo, for his politics. But it hits Rosa instead, delivered in brandy. She dies almost instantly.
And the aftermath. It's not just grief, it's profound trauma, especially for Clara, that autopsy scene.
It's one of the most visceral, violent moments in the book. And it's there for a reason. Clara sneaks in and sees her beautiful sister on this cold marble slab.
Sliced open from throat all the way to her sex, her insides on a platter.
It's grotesque. A total violation. It's like the political violence becomes physical, visceral, right there on Rosa's body. And for Clara, seeing that perfection just dismantled.
That's when she stops speaking.
Exactly. That's the trigger. She withdraws into silence for 6 years. It's her way of protesting this unbearable, senseless pain in the world. A silent, physical refusal.
Wow. Okay, before we leave the Del Valles, we need to mention the agent of pure, delightful chaos, Uncle Marcos.
Yes. Nivea's brother. He's so important because he's the complete opposite of the rigid control Esteban Truba will later represent.
He's the adventurer, right? Bringing back parrots, artifacts, trying alchemy.
Total chaos follows him, trying to cure impotence, serenading cousins with barrel organs, and of course the flying machine.
Ah, the flying machine. Tell us about that. It's such a defining moment for him.
He builds this incredible bird-like contraption, this prehistoric eagle-faced flying machine planning to soar over the Andes.
Which, of course, doesn't quite work out.
No, it's a spectacular failure. But that's the point, isn't it? It represents this belief in the grand, the impossible, the completely non-commercial dream. It's about the attempt.
And even his death is chaotic.
Right down to the end. He comes back in a coffin, dies of some mysterious African plague, and they have to store his body with Chinese vegetables to preserve it. But his spirit, that adventurous, chaotic spirit, definitely lives on.
Okay, so Rosa's death shifts the whole focus onto Esteban Truba. And his story starts with, well, misery.
Pretty much. His childhood is painted as just relentless hardship. Cold, fear, guilt, praying endless rosaries.
Dominated by his crippled mother, Dona Esther, and his sister, Ferula.
Yeah, Ferula looms large. She's overbearing, self-sacrificing in this really suffocating way. And that environment, that poverty and oppression, it really forges his ambition, his need for absolute control later on.
There's that specific incident with the 50 centavos that seems key to his relationship with Ferula.
Oh, absolutely. It's like his villain origin story almost. He finally saves up 50 centavos, treats himself to this fancy Viennese coffee with whipped cream. A tiny luxury.
Feels guilty, spills it.
Right, and when he confesses to Ferula, she just twists the knife, tells him it's God punishing him for spending Mama's medicine money on himself.
Ouch.
Yeah, and that moment, it teaches him, that pleasure is sinful, maybe, and that Ferula is this obstacle, this ominous shadow blocking his happiness. His drive for wealth becomes this desperate attempt to conquer that feeling, that shame.
So he goes north, works himself to the bone mining, all to marry Rosa. He strikes gold, gets rich.
But then Rosa dies. His whole purpose just evaporates.
And that grief, that rage gets channeled into something else entirely. The land.
Exactly. Tres Marias, the family hacienda he inherits, becomes his new obsession. It's a total ruin when he gets it, filled with rocks and vultures.
A no man's land.
And he pours everything, his money, his energy, his fury, into restoring it. It's driven by this deep, conservative belief that land is the only thing that truly lasts. It's his way of imposing order on the chaos of his grief.
He hires Pedro Segundo Garcia as his foreman, and they transform the place physically.
Right, but while he's bringing order to the land, his own internal chaos, his rage that gets inflicted on the people living there.
And this is where we hit the crucial event of this section, establishing his tyranny and specifically the consequences of his virility.
Yeah, his isolation and anger seem to fuel this explosive sexual appetite.
Yeah.
And the novel's blunt about it. He sees the peasant women as basically hygienic methods for relieving stress.
Dehumanizing them completely.
Utterly. They're objects for his release.
Which leads directly to Pancho Garcia.
Right. Pedro Segundo's daughter, or maybe granddaughter, the text is a bit ambiguous. He takes her violently by the riverbank, throws her work aside, sweeps her up. It's an act of raw power, dominance.
And he gets pregnant.
And he instantly loses interest. And that specific act, at that specific place, the riverbank, that becomes incredibly significant later. It sets the stage, geographically and morally, for Blanca's forbidden love affair years later. The echo is deliberate.
And the consequences for the Garcia line and others like them are immediate.
Devastating. Truba denies all his illegitimate children, refuses them his name, any inheritance. He has this rigid belief that only children born in the church to a woman of his own class actually count.
Offers them a pittance and the threat of a whip.
Exactly. The only one he even slightly acknowledges is Esteban Garcia, the one named after him. But this denial, this refusal to recognize his own bloodline,
Yeah.
it's not just a character flaw. It's the central sin of the novel, you could say.
Because that denied lineage.
It festers. It creates this poison that will come back decades later, embodied by the very man, Esteban Garcia, who ends up torturing his legitimate granddaughter, Alba. It's a direct consequence.
Okay, so 6 years have passed since Rosa died. Clara's been silent all this time. But then she speaks.
And how she speaks. The crucial event here isn't something external happening to her. It's her asserting her own power. Her silence breaks, suddenly, specifically to make a prediction.
She tells her mother that Esteban Truba, Rosa's old fiancé, is coming to ask for her hand in marriage.
Right. It immediately places her outside normal time, normal logic, and sure enough, Esteban, having rebuilt his fortune in Tres Marias, shows up soon after. Prophecy fulfilled.
What draws Truba to Clara? She seems like the opposite of what a man like him would want.
It's complex. He's
Yep.
not looking for a conventional wife, maybe. He's attracted to her strangeness, her luminous material, as the book calls it. He sees her perhaps as an antidote to his own internal rage.
Even though she's clearly, as the text says, not particularly well suited to the duties of marriage.
Exactly. He kind of thinks he can manage her eccentricities. He accepts the possibility of levitation, talking to spirits. He seems to believe he could eventually possess her, control her magic, impose his order on her chaos, just like he did with the land.
So he builds this huge, grand house, the big house on the corner, marries her.
And Frula moves in.
Ah, Ferula, his sister. She comes to care for their ailing mother.
But very quickly, her focus shifts entirely to Clara. She develops this incredibly intense, devoted bond with her sister-in-law.
Taking over the household, bathing Clara, brushing her green hair.
Yeah, it's described as this profound, deeply loving female relationship. Not sexual, but incredibly intimate and devoted. Frula pours all the energy she once used on Esteban and their mother onto Clara.
Which, naturally, Esteban can't stand.
Not at all. He sees this bond, this female world that excludes him, as a direct threat. His jealousy just festers. He's watching his wife drift further into her own spiritual realm, aided by the sister he already resents.
Leading to that inevitable violent confrontation.
It's brutal. He completely loses it. All that childhood resentment boils over. He screams abuse at Frula, calls her terrible names, dyke, whore.
Physically throws her out of the house.
It's pure patriarchal rage, terrified of this female intimacy he can't control or be part of.
And this act unleashes the curse.
The curse, yes. This is probably the most potent, single piece of magic in the plot. Frula, standing there in her nightgown, just shouts it out. I set my curse on you, Esteban. You will always be alone. Your body and soul will shrivel up and you'll die like a dog.
Chilling.
And it's more than just words. It becomes the hidden engine driving Esteban's fate for the rest of the novel. It dictates his emotional trajectory, his inevitable loneliness. He regrets it instantly, apparently, but the words are out there. The damage is done.
And from this tumultuous marriage, the next generation arrives. Blanca and the twins, Yemi and Nicholas.
Right. And they really embody the family's contradictions.
Yeah.
Blanca is born via C-section, Clara being indifferent to doing things the normal way.
She's described as quiet, the only normal person for many generations.
Yeah, she inherits Rosa's green hair, but also Clara's sweetness. She represents a kind of potential for peace, maybe, but she gets drawn into the conflict through love, of course.
And the twins. They get sent away to boarding school in England.
A very strict, Victorian-style English boarding school, which completely fails to stamp out their inherent natures.
Jamie becomes the serious one.
He's dark, intellectual, very much like Truba in intensity, maybe, but without the rage. He's reading Marx at age 12, leaning socialist. He becomes a doctor, dedicating his life to the poor, completely rejecting his father's world.
And Nicholas?
Nicholas is pure Uncle Marcos reborn, the adventurer, the eccentric, obsessed with psychic powers, flamenco launching one bizarre business venture after another. He's the embodiment of the family's magical, chaotic streak.
So the twins represent this total split, politically and spiritually.
As the kids grow up, Blanca inevitably gets pulled back into the orbit of Tres Marias, and that's where she reconnects with Pedro Teixeira Garcia.
The foreman son. The son of Pedro II, grandson perhaps of Pancha.
Right. He's grown up a peasant, but he's smart. He's been exposed to radical ideas, communism, unionism through books, and a local teacher priest. He becomes the direct antagonist to Esteban, both for Blanca's love and politically.
Their love affair is this powerful undercurrent through much of the novel.
It really is. It starts in childhood, sleeping under the dining room table together. And it continues into adulthood, secretly, dangerously.
Those clandestine meetings.
At the riverbank, the same riverbank where Esteban assaulted Pacha years before. The repetition is so deliberate, so painful. But this time, it's about mutual love, consent, and defiance.
And Blanca has that trick to avoid the guard dogs.
Yeah, stripping naked. A trick apparently learned from old Pedro Garcia. It suggests her love, her vulnerability maybe, makes her immune to the patriarchy's defenses. It's quite symbolic.
So you have this intense personal drama playing out against the backdrop of rising political tension between Pedro Tercero, the activist, and Esteban, the landowner, and then nature intervenes massively.
The earthquake. This is the huge event of this section. Clara saw it coming, of course.
She kept warning Truba, predicting 10,000 dead.
And he just laughed it off. Typical Truba skepticism, but then it hits. 4 a.m., total devastation. Tres Marias, the symbol of his control, is destroyed. The land itself rebels against him.
And Truba himself is badly injured, trapped, immobile.
Suffering this dreadful torment of itching and immobility,
Ugh.
which naturally just makes his temper even worse.
But the irony is how he's healed.
Oh, the irony is profound. It's old Pedro Garcia, Pedro Tercero's grandfather, the blind peasant patriarch who saves him.
Using just his sense of touch.
Exactly. He feels Esteban's broken body, his bones, and slowly, patiently puts him back together. It's this ancient indigenous wisdom from the very class Truba despises that saves his life.
A debt he never really acknowledges.
Never fully. It's a moment of cosmic justice, really. His wealth, his power meant nothing. He needed the knowledge of the people he exploited.
And speaking of debts coming due, this period also brings Farula's death. Her curse starts to manifest.
Right. It's 6 years after he threw her out. Suddenly, during dinner, her apparition appears. Only Clara seems to see it clearly, feels a kiss on her forehead.
And Clara just calmly announces, Farula is dead.
Esteban panics, rushes out, maybe finally believing the curse could be real.
Finds her dead in this squalid little room, alone, poor.
Exactly as the curse predicted. Alone and impoverished, despite all his money. And he has this final outburst over her baki, raging against her purity, her chastity, feeling like it was always judging his own life.
It forces him to confront his loneliness, doesn't it?
Absolutely. He realizes, the book suggests, that the emotional distance from Clara really started the moment he kicked Farula out. The curse was always about his own actions leading to isolation.
And then Claire herself makes her final stand against his violence.
Yes, it centers again around Rosa. He finds Clara reading about Rosa's death in an old notebook. And he just snaps, beats her violently, knocks her teeth out.
It's his final outrage against her.
And her response is absolute. She picks up the broken pieces, her teeth, says goodnight, and never speaks to him again. Ever. Her silence, which began as a reaction to external horror, now becomes this conscious, powerful act of autonomy against him.
Okay, so the family's fractured, Clara's silent towards Esteban, and then the focus shifts hard towards politics, triggered by Blanca's pregnancy.
Right, but Blanca's pregnant with Pedro Tercero's child. And for Esteban, now a conservative senator-elect, this is a disaster, purely about scandal avoidance.
His political ambitions are taking off. He can't have this. So the crucial event here is the forced marriage.
Damage control, pure and simple. He needs to marry her off fast.
And his choice of groom is interesting. Count Jean de Satigny.
Oh, the count. He seems perfect on the surface, right? French aristocrat, smells nice, needs capital for a chinchilla farm.
But totally suspicious.
Deeply suspicious. Truba arranges this ridiculously extravagant wedding, huge spectacle. Clara refuses to attend, sending silent warnings. Blanca is utterly miserable.
It's basically a transaction.
Completely. She's being sold off to protect Truba's reputation.
And the marriage is predictably awful for Blanca. Isolated, unhappy, and then she discovers the Count's secrets.
Yeah, it gets dark fast. He's not just farming chinchillas. He's involved in digging up and illegally trading ancient Indian mummies.
He keeps them in a locked lab.
Right. And Blanca hears these disturbing sounds from behind the door. Moans, suffocated cries, and laughter. It's perverse, sinister. And that discovery, that horror, is what finally pushes her to act.
She escapes.
Flees the marriage, goes back home to the city pregnant with Alba and Truba to erase the whole embarrassing episode.
He just declares the Count died of fever in the desert.
Yep. A convenient lie to maintain the facade. Problem solved in his mind.
Meanwhile, while Blanca's navigating this disaster, her brothers are solidifying their paths. Nicholas is still being
Oh,
Nicholas.
absolutely. He's still chasing enlightenment through increasingly bizarre schemes, trying to combine mysticism and
The
business.
hot air balloon attempt, the chicken slaughtering business.
Right. Filling the elegant house with feathers and noise until Clara has a breakdown. He gets kicked out eventually, partly for inappropriate nudity with his spiritualist friends,
He only finds peace later, through Eastern spirituality.
suggesting maybe that real peace for him lies completely outside his father's world, his father's values.
And Jaime, he goes in the complete opposite direction.
Totally. He becomes the family's conscience, you could say. He throws himself into his medical work in the slums, deeply socialist, politically committed.
He gets close to the man who will become president, the candidate.
Yeah, he's all about moral integrity, service. The book also touches on his quiet, unrequited love for Amanda, who is Nicholas's lover, and whom Jamie helps through a difficult abortion.
Reinforcing his role as the silent caretaker, the
Yeah.
burden bearer.
Exactly, which makes his eventual feat even more tragic. He carries the weight of the family's suffering in a way.
And that brings us to the last generation, Alba, Blanca's daughter. She inherits Rose's green hair.
But she's raised primarily by Clara in that unique atmosphere of magic, intellectual freedom, and benign neglect almost.
He reads James' medical books, kind of bridges the gap between the isolated family members. She even becomes close to her grandfather, the aging, lonely Esteban.
Right. Clara saw her potential, predicted the family madness was divided up equally, leaving Alba with this miracle of equilibrium. She's positioned as the one who might survive it all.
But the key event of Alba's youth is actually Clara's death and how she dies.
Yes, Claire decides to die. It's not illness, it's not accident, it's a conscious choice. James, the doctor, confirms there's nothing medically wrong. She's just leaving.
And in those final hours, the silence between her and Esteban finally breaks.
It does. They lie together, and he just pours everything out, his fears, regrets, his love, confesses it all to her silent form. It's a moment of profound, albeit late, connection.
Her funeral is huge, reflecting her connections to all strata of society.
All the people she touched, the poor, students, spiritualists, the children she helped, she dies on her own terms, reconciled, autonomous.
And without Clara, Esteban really declines. Ferula's curse is fully realized.
He becomes incredibly lonely. That detail about him keeping Claire's false teeth, the ones he knocked out in a suede pouch around his neck.
It's so bizarre, but also poignant. A strange talisman of his guilt and loss.
Yeah. Alba notes that Clara was the glue holding everything together. Without her, the family unit just dissolves.
And this personal decay happens just as the political situation explodes. Jaime confirms the socialists are gonna win the election.
Which shocks Senator Truba, the arch-conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But his reaction isn't reflection, it's preparation for conflict. He starts stockpiling weapons in the house.
Still believing in force over law.
Absolutely. And he completely dismisses warnings about censorship, famously saying they'll never do away with freedom of the press. Just totally blind to the forces gathering around him, forces he, in part, supports.
Then the coup happens, the military takes over, the presidential palace is bombed. And the crucial event here is Jamie's fate.
Jamie's stand. He's with the president in the palace during the bombing, and he refuses to leave, refuses exile. It's the ultimate expression of his lifelong principles.
He's seen holding a gun he doesn't even know how to use.
Yeah, realizing far too late that his moral compass means nothing in the face of brute force.
His capture and death are just brutal.
He's taken by soldiers who've lost all reason, beaten, executed. His death signifies the end of the family's moral center, maybe, killed by the very forces his father championed. It's the ultimate political tragedy for the Trubas.
But amidst all this horror, there's a moment of incredible reconciliation back at Tres Marias.
It's amazing. Truba goes back to the hacienda, gets briefly taken hostage by the peasants who've taken over. Blanca and Alba go there.
And Pedro Teixeira Garcia shows up to rescue him.
Yes. Pedro Teixeira, now a hunted man himself, risks everything to save Esteban, the man who hated him, mutilated him, tried to kill him.
There's that moment where Truba avoids looking at Pedro's damaged hand.
But Pedro just unties him, and instead of a handshake, they embrace. This tight knot of an embrace, shedding decades of hatred. Necessity forces this incredible act of forgiveness, breaking the cycle.
And that allows Blanca and Pedro Tercero to finally escape together.
Finally choose their love. Blanca had been hiding Pedro in the city house the happiest time of her life, she says, but it was too dangerous.
So they arrange this almost comical escape.
Smuggled out in a diplomatic car, hidden under a pile of lettuce and bruised tomatoes. It's absurd, but it works. They finally get their freedom, their life together, through exile.
But the cycle of violence isn't quite finished. It demands one final payment from the Truba line. Alba is captured.
Alba, who's become an activist, hiding her own lover Miguel, she's dragged away by the secret police, and this is where the ultimate generational debt comes due.
The man in charge of her torture
Is Colonel Garcia, who reveals himself to be Esteban Garcia Truba's unacknowledged bastard grandson. The peasant lineage, denied and scorned, returns to exact its revenge.
The torture Alba endures is payback for what Esteban did to Pancha by the riverbank all those years ago.
Exactly. It's a direct, symbolic balancing of the scales. The violence inflicted on the unacknowledged line is now visited upon the legitimate heir.
Truba is devastated. He uses every last bit of influence he has left.
And ironically, the person who can help him isn't family, isn't political allies. It's Transito Soto,
The prostitute he met decades ago lent 50 pesos to.
who is now this powerful madam with connections deep inside the military regime. It's incredible poetic justice. The powerful Senator Truba has to humble himself, come on my knees, to ask for help from this woman, repaying a tiny favor she never let him forget.
And she helps him. She gets Alba released.
Showing this alternative network of female power operating outside the official structures Truba relied on.
How does Alba survive the torture itself?
Through her grandmother's legacy. Trapped in darkness, subjected to horrible abuse, she starts writing her story in her head, using Clara's technique of detached observation, of mental testimony.
To reclaim the past.
Right. To process the horror by turning it into narrative, refusing to be broken by it. She survives, physically weakened, but mentally intact, rescued by poor neighbors.
And the saga ends with Esteban Truba's death.
Quietly, peacefully at home, finally reconciled, murmuring Clara's name. He got the long life, the wealth he craved, the victory, but he died profoundly lonely, just as Ferrula predicted.
And Alba takes up the task of writing it all down.
Yes, sitting at Clara's table, gathering the notebooks, the letters, the ledgers. Her act of writing becomes the final, crucial event. It's not about revenge, it's about understanding. Preserving the history, the magic, the violence, transforming it all into the story we've just read. #tag outro.
So after that incredible journey, what's the big takeaway here? The House of the Spirits feels like this powerful argument for memory, doesn't it? For writing, for love, as the only real ways to fight back against these cycles of violence, both personal and political.
Absolutely. And it lays bare that fundamental conflict between, rigid, controlling patriarchy embodied by Esteban and his obsession with land and lineage and this incredibly resilient female spirit, Clara, Blanca, Alba. They all find ways to survive and assert their autonomy, often through unconventional means: magic, silence, exile, writing.
And Alba, by writing the story, she kind of fulfills Clara's original mission, right? To reclaim the past. She closes the circle, starting where Clara's notebooks began. Barabas came to us by sea. She becomes the historian, the one who makes sense of it all.
Yeah, she uses the written word to defeat the silence that the dictatorship tries to impose. It's incredibly powerful.
Which leaves us with maybe one last thought to chew on, connecting back to that beginning.
Esteban Truba was obsessed with his legitimate family, his status, controlling that lineage. But in the end, it was his unacknowledged lineage, the bastard line he denied Esteban Garcia, that came back to enact the violence that almost destroyed everything he built.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What power do those unacknowledged parts of our history, our legacies, really hold? When do they come back demanding to be recognized, demanding payment?
A deep question indeed, something to consider long after the story ends.
Definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.